Hey guys, in this video, we're going to go through IXL assignment HHS, rotations, find the coordinates. When working with rotations, I personally am not someone who is able to just visually locate exactly where that point would rotate to. I know in my head that if it's a 90 degrees counterclockwise, that means I'm going to the left counterclockwise and it's going to be one turn. That much I can do. However, when it comes to knowing exactly where that point's going to lie, I have to rely on those rotation rules, which is this picture of a poster I have to the left. Great opportunity for you to either write these down in your notebook, to duplicate this chart, or to snap a picture, take a screenshot. Okay, let's get started. Our first question here says point T is located at -4, -1. And it is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. All of the points, all of the problems we work with in this are going to be about the origin. And we are asked to find what would be the resulting point T prime. Well, the first thing is we need to identify how it's being rotated so we can identify our rule. I notice that it's 90 degrees counterclockwise. I'm coming over to my chart here. And the left-hand column is our counterclockwise directions, 90 degrees. So this is going to be our rule. First off, I am going to write our pre-image coordinates, -4, -1. Then our rule, which is -y, x. We are now going to apply that rule. The first thing I do is mess with any negative signs, because that negative sign, it doesn't necessarily mean that your answer will be negative. It means that you're going to multiply that value by a negative. So it is telling me that in my pre-image, in that original point, our y value is multiplied by -1. It's going to be an opposite. That is step number 1. So that -1 would become a +1. We just applied that and took the opposite of our original y value. The second step that I need to do is notice that our x and our y value are flipped. Our x and our y value are switched around. So that is my next and final step. We're going to flip our two values, and that then is our T prime. That is the location of our point rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise, which on a graph would land us right here, and we notice that is one turn, which is what it should be. 90 degrees counterclockwise, that's one turn to the left. So type that in down below, and you will have your answer. All right, let's try our next one here. Point C, which is located at -3,2, is rotated 270 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. Oh, sorry, I think I read that wrong. I am just all tongue-tied today. Sorry, guys. Let's start that from scratch. Point C, which is at -3,2, is rotated 270 degrees clockwise about the origin. That is really important because we have to make sure we're looking at the right rule. So if it's clockwise, that's the right side here. 270 degrees clockwise is the same rule we just used. Kind of nice. You'll get to see this twice. So first thing, I'm going to write down my pre-image point of -3,2. And then my rule, which tells us our original y value. So our pre-image y value is going to become the opposite. And then I'm going to flip my two values. I'm going to show my work a little bit differently on this one. Maybe you want to do the same thing here. First step is make that original y value have the opposite sign. Multiply it by a -1. Well, 2 times -1 would give us a -2. I'm just going to add that up above. Now to get our final answer, we need to flip. We need to switch our X and our Y value, meaning our location of C prime would be -3. Good grief, sorry guys, would be -2, -3, because we are flipping those according to our rule. Now, if we put this on our graph, -2, -3 would be right here, which matches a 270 degrees clockwise rotation. 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns would be 270 degrees, and I went clockwise. The cool thing about this is the reason that both 90 degrees counterclockwise and 270 degrees clockwise share a rule is they wind up at the same place. Because if I rotated it 90 degrees counterclockwise, that's 1 turn and it would end up right there. So that's kind of what happens since we're going in a circle. Depending on the direction you go, you can wind up at the same place. So bonus fact there for you. All right, how about this one? The point R, which is located at 3, 3, is rotated 180 degrees clockwise around the origin. What are the coordinates of the resulting point R prime? As always, identify how you're rotating it so you can select your rule. 180 degrees clockwise brings us to the rule -x, -y, and that rule means you are multiplying your pre-image points, both the x and the y value, by a -1. Our pre-image is located at 3, 3. When we apply our rule, -1 times 3 is -3. And then same for our y value. And in this case, notice your x and y have not changed positions. Therefore, they don't change positions here either. So you just, for 180 degree rotation, multiply both values by a -1. For visual purposes, that lands us right here. And if we're going 180 degrees clockwise, that's 1, 2, turns. Very good. All right, once you get a little bit higher, I'm only in a 37 SMART score, so it doesn't take you too long to get there. You are going to have images to rotate. The only difference here is you have to do it for every single point. So it takes a little longer, but you are applying the same rule to every vertice, so you can rotate the entire shape, the entire image. First off, identify our type of rotation. We are rotating it 90 degrees counterclockwise. So the left side of our chart is counterclockwise. That's just our favorite rule. We'll have to make sure after this one that we get a rule that we haven't done yet. But that's okay. It's still good practice here. On this one, when you have a shape, also notice that it doesn't give you your pre-image points. We have to identify them. Let's go in order here, B, C, D, E. So B is currently located at -7, 3. It's this right here, -7, 3. So if we apply our rule of -yx, our first step, let's deal with that negative. We need to take our pre-image y and multiply that by a -1. So 3 times -1 would be -3. Then to officially make that change, to get our B prime, we need to flip our coordinates. So the pre-image y becomes our new x value. The pre-image x becomes our new y value. Go ahead and type that in case we end up needing to clear some stuff to have more space. We're going to do the same thing with C prime. So C prime, that is, or define C prime. C as the pre-image is currently located at -6, 3. Let's apply our rule that we have written up above. We can see with our rule, we need to make the pre-image Y value multiplied by a -1, and then we need to flip our values, making it -3, -6. All right, D prime next. D as a pre-image is currently located at -6, 4. We're rotating 90 degrees counterclockwise. So we're using this rule that's right up here, -y, x, because that is our rule for rotating 90 degrees counterclockwise. Our pre-image Y is multiplied by a -1, and then we flip our coordinates around, making it -4, -6. And last but not least, we're going to do E prime here. We got just enough room. So E is currently as a pre-image located at -7, 4. We apply our rule for our 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation. We make our Y value the opposite. So +4 becomes a negative, and then we flip our coordinates around. All right, awesome. Let's find one that's a rule we haven't used yet. All right, here we go. Point G, which is located at 1, 1, is rotated 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. So pay close attention to your chart. Make sure we look in the clockwise column. If it's rotated 90 degrees clockwise, we follow this rule. Our rule for rotating 90 degrees clockwise is we flip around our X and our Y values and we multiply the original, so your pre-image X value, by a -1. Point G is located at 1, 1. If we're rotating it 90 degrees clockwise, let's apply the rule. So first, we need to take our pre-image X value, multiply that by a -1. So 1 times -1 would be -1. And then to get our rotated image, our G prime, we're going to flip those around, making our ordered pair 1, -1. All right, let's do this one again. This is the same rule, only the numbers aren't the same. They're not both ones, so it'll be good to get a second example on this. Point M is -4, -6, and it is rotated 90 degrees clockwise around the origin. So remember, look at your chart here, 90 degrees clockwise follows the rule of Y -X. Our pre-image of M is located at -4, -6. When we apply this rule, our pre-image, our original X, needs to be multiplied by a negative. So -4 times -1 makes that a +4. Your second step would be to flip around your X and your Y values, making it -6, +4. All right, we'll do one final example to close us off here. All right, here is our last example. Let's do another one where we rotated 180 degrees, and you'll have seen at least 2 examples for every rule. The only rule we haven't seen is 360, because that just puts it back right where it is, and I don't think there's any problems like that on here, but if there is, your point doesn't change at all. We're rotating 180 degrees counterclockwise. So I'm going to write this up top. Our rule then is we just take both of our values, multiply them by -1, and don't have to do anything else. So first off, let's identify our pre-image coordinate. Let's go in order. We'll start with E. So E is currently located at 2, -8. When I complete that 180-degree rotation, when I apply that rule, we're multiplying both values by -1. So essentially, they're both becoming the opposite. Therefore, for E prime, we have -2, +8. Now for F, the pre-image coordinates for F right here are located at 2, -2. When I apply that rule, rotated 180 degrees, I just need to multiply each value by -1, landing us with -2, +2. Do all 4 vertices, all 4 points. G is currently located at 9, -2. When we apply that 180 rotation, when we apply that rule of -x, -y, we are making both of those opposite by multiplying by a -1. Therefore, -9, +2. And last but not least, for H, it is currently located at 9, -8. Apply your rule, multiply both values by a -1, landing us with -8 and +8. All right. If you have any questions, do remember that IXL has a handy little tutorial itself. And sometimes it's nice to just hear it again or hear it from a different person. So maybe they'll explain it slightly differently and you'll like that better and it'll click for you. So check that out if you still have questions, or of course you can come to a help session or send an email. All right, good luck.